What's up, strongest men, women, and children from blocks all around the world? I am my block's strongest man, and I come to you again this week with my wonderful co-host Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness. What's up, Isaac? And as always, we bring you some fantastic guests. Tonight, we're hopefully going to talk a little strongman, little Highland games, little bodybuilding, get a little bit of all the strength sports tonight from our very experienced guests. We have Hannah Lindsay and Thomas Wade. What's up, guys?
Hey, yo.
We're doing good. How about y'all? Ready to be on?
Yeah, thanks for joining us. This is awesome. So we typically do strongman stuff. So I got to start with you, Thomas, because we have to learn a little bit about bodybuilding. I know a little bit, right? Like everybody knows Nick's Strength and Power. So I followed him for a bunch. So I know there's the categories. There's men's physique, classic physique, 212, and open, right? And if I'm not mistaken, you compete classic physique, right?
I did classic physique the last show that I competed in. Yeah. Prior to that, it's always been bodybuilding. And when I compete again, I'll probably go back to bodybuilding. Honestly.
Yeah. So for the uninitiated among us, what's the difference in those categories?
Well, the classic physique has height categories, and then each of those height categories you're restricted to a certain body weight. Whereas with bodybuilding, you have weight classes, which I mean, again, you're restricted to a certain body weight, but it's not as finite, I guess, as it is with the height classes. Like for me, the last year that I competed, I had to weigh 212 or below. Measured in at 6 foot, so there's a very limited amount of body weight I guess you can gain in the off season when you're trying to do classic. If you do like a lot of guys where you're cutting 30 or 40 pounds, you can't really do that and do classic physique.
Yeah, I mean, so for people who have who aren't into bodybuilding that much, the name you would know from classic physique is Chris Bumstead, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So compare and contrast, I know you've done Highland Games as well. It's a totally different training methodology, I would imagine, right? And diet as well. Do you want to kind of talk about those things?
Yeah. I mean, with Highland, there really isn't a diet. Beer maybe, but obviously bodybuilding is a lot more strict, just across the board. Everything's got to be more structured. Your training has to be basically at the same time every day. Your meals are at the same time every day. Everything's weighed and measured and monitored, and you keep up with your body weight. You keep up with your water intake, your food intake. Usually you do I always do like weekly check-ins with my coaches. So everything's just a lot more structured, and you don't have a whole lot of leeway. Like where, say you've got to go run errands on Saturday, you're going to have to take your meals with you, that kind of thing. Cause you're not going to have time to you can't just go grab something. You have a very structured, specific plan they have to follow. Whereas with Highland Games, obviously the nutrition's a little bit more lenient. And the training is different. It's not something you can't throw every day. I mean, I guess you could, but, a lot of the weight training is more explosive type movements, a lot of triple extension, upright rows.
Basically, you're just trying to get a lot of power, a lot of hip
Right.
power. Power from the hips. I mean, whenever you spin and rotate and you turn, you're getting a lot of drive and pop. And with bodybuilding, I've done a figure show once. I'll never do it again. But everything was very just about getting as much blood in the muscle as possible and really shaping up to a certain way. Whereas when you do Highland Games, it's explosive movements.
Right.
And
Cleans,
it's not, cleans, hang high pulls.
High pulls.
I mean, it's stuff like that, explosive bench, really explosive singles on deadlifts, but it's just a totally different thing because with bodybuilding, it's a lot of strict form movements, controlled eccentrics, pauses, things of that nature, drop sets, triple drop sets, etc. But with Highlands, you're really just trying to build as much power as you possibly can, because whenever you're throwing, I mean, it's everything coming from your hips all the way out and you're exploding and pushing, or same thing if it's a weight over bar, your triple extension, power from your hips popping and exploding this way. So it's a lot more hip drive and extension explosivity versus bodybuilding's not really explosive as all. That's why Thomas presses the same motion, whether it's 135 or 315. It's the same.
Yeah, that's getting used to. And then ones too, there's everything's technique based. And, me just kind of jumping into it, but at the, behest of a couple of my friends and going up against guys that were, college track and field athletes. So they already have the footwork and the spins and all that stuff down. And I'm trying to watch them and kind of pick up as I go. And then, now that once I made some acquaintances and was able to train with some folks. I mean, now I just try to learn the proper cues and the proper drills to do to get that footwork and stuff.
Yeah. So are you doing both Highland and bodybuilding, or have you transitioned from bodybuilding over to Highland?
Well,
Kind of what's your evolution?
The majority of my training is still bodybuilding based. I still follow like a 1 to 2 body part a day type template, and then I just kind of work the other stuff in as I go. So like if it's the shoulder day, then I'll do some hang cleans or some push press or some, that kind of thing. Or like today I did my warm up before I did my pin presses was a lot of pushing against bands, that kind of thing. I just kind of work that stuff in around my bodybuilding stuff, and part of that's just because I just really like bodybuilding, and that's how I've always trained. And then again, part of it's because I feel like continuing to focus on each of those muscle groups has helped me a lot as far as staying healthy and avoiding injury, that type of thing.
Yeah, I have a follow-up there, but Isaac, I think I cut you off and you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask if you had much of a background in like track and field type stuff. So hammer, javelin, that. No?
None whatsoever.
Okay. Because I got
folks that were doing Highlands and they kind of got me into it, but no, I don't have any background with it. I played baseball like my whole life. I played baseball all the way through college, but that's actually counterproductive when it comes to throwing stones and stuff, because I'm out there trying to throw it like a baseball instead of pushing it.
I guess if you're strong enough, you could throw it like a baseball.
Yeah, I've been riding for a while now. It's just luckily I've been strong enough to kind of wing it and get by with it. But now that I've moved up to A class, I've had to really work on technique and that kind of thing to stay competitive.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier that you like bodybuilding. I want to compare and contrast two things, right? So there's bodybuilding and there's prepping for a show. Do you like the prepping for a show part?
When I'm in that mindset, I enjoy it. But as a whole, no. I mean, I don't know many people that do. You have all these people that say they love the process. They don't. They're lying to you. They like how you look. I mean, that's a good side effect, I guess, of having to go through all that. But no, I don't particularly care for the prep process for myself. But I just said I've just always that was how when I first got in the gym, that's what I did was follow bodybuilding templates. So that's what I've always been comfortable with. And then I kind of why I started incorporating strongman training into my bodybuilding training too, is just to help me add a different level of like density kind of to my muscle and get me kind of a different look.
Yeah, that's cool. How long have you been doing Highland, by the way?
This is my third year. Is that right? Fourth year. This will be our 4th year.
Cool. Hannah, you too?
Yeah, it's my third. He started before me, and then I always had wanted to do one, but I was in Louisiana and we didn't have those. And then I moved up here with him, and they have them more often over here. So my first one I did with him, and I couldn't even do all the events because I'm just coming off of a hamstring pull. So I didn't do caber or sheath, and I still won the whole contest. Not even going all out. So I was like, okay, well, this is fun. And then I actually got to prep, and then we didn't get to train for 2 years because of or we didn't get to compete for 2 years for certain reasons that happen in the world. And we got to do one in Decatur, and I competed against Adrian Wilson and what's Emily's last name? Adams. Emily Adams and a few other girls. And I ended up winning it. They threw me in A class. We went to a technique clinic, and I'd signed up for B class. And the guys there were like, no, you're going to throw an A. And I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And they're like, doesn't matter. So they showed me a few things. We worked on some stuff. And I have some connections through Spencer Tyler and things. So I was sending him a lot of videos. And I competed in A class. And at that contest, I actually was going for the world record wob. And I pushed the bar back. It wasn't a fixed bar. The standards weren't fixed. And it went, and the ring flipped over it, but then it just pushed the bar back. I still won. And Adrian Wilson, she went to the Olympic trials for track and field. She's a 5-time world champ. Emily Adams has multiple world records. But it's funny because Adrian Wilson probably is 160 pounds, and I'm 110 or 210 at the time. And she was beating me in certain events because just of her technique. My strength definitely propels me, but if I continue to get my technique further, a lot of the girls 2-turn, or the A class people 2-turn, I 1-turn because I haven't gotten it down good enough to try to do a 2-turn yet. And she still outthrows me. Like the last time I outthrew her, I actually beat her on my lightweight for distance by like a foot at the grandfather games. And that was like huge for me because it's something I've been working on for a long time, but it's just the technique in Highlands can propel way further than just raw strength. If you're anywhat of an athlete and you're somewhat strong, you can go to like a novice or B class and be semi-competitive and have fun. But once you learn that technique, that's what really can propel you like above and really get you to the top of the B class or like the A class, which A class for women's pros, basically. We don't really have a pro class, but you're considered pros. So I had 3 games last year. 3 games last year, and I won 2, and then I placed second by 1 point at the third one at the grandfather games. So I mean, it was a very good year for me. I really wanted to go to the Worlds, but I had prior commitment with, I don't even know what work was, it work or something.
Yeah.
I couldn't get off, so I couldn't go to Worlds. But as far as the standings went, I finished second in the nation last year.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, you know, I'm not that knowledgeable on Highland. How do the shows work? Is there a certain number of shows that happen every year? Does it fluctuate like Strongman? Like kind of, is there regionals that brings you to Worlds? How does that whole structure work?
Worlds is a invite.
You have to get you finish top 10.
Right.
And then you're invited. And then if 2 people can't go, then I'll go down the list. Number 11 and 12 would show up.
Yeah, and your rankings are based on
your best throw.
Your best throws from each division.
So like
from each category.
Right. So you could do 10 different shows and they would take your best throw for each category, like your best weight over bar, your best lightweight from distance, etc., and put that on the scoreboard, like online on the website. So you basically it's your best category throws across the board for you to be ranked nationally. Right. And then they'll take the top 10 for Worlds.
Interesting. And another interesting thing you just said that never occurred to me. So unlike Strongman in Highland, everything is some form of a throw, right? So for people that don't know, what are the events? The ones I know are the caber toss, weight over bar. I don't know if they call it shot put or if there's another name for it. And the sheath, right?
Right.
Yeah, you have sheath, which is the pitchfork with the back, what essentially is a hay bale. Then you have the open stone, which is where you can move. You can actually spin like you would with a shot put. And you have what's called Braemar stone, where you can pick. You have to be stationary. You can pick your front foot up, but it has to plant back in the same place that it rose from. And then you have the lightweight for distance, which is for men is a 28-pound weight, women is a 14. The heavyweight for distance, which men is a 56 and women is a 28. Then you have light hammer which for women is a 12.
It's 12 and 16.
12 and 16 are their light and heavy hammers, and the men's are 16 and 20. And the hammer throw is, I know you see the Olympic hammer throw where their whole body actually spins, whereas with the Scottish hammer, you're just rotating around your
PVC pipe.
Head. Yeah.
It's like a PVC pipe with like a lead ball on the end.
Yeah.
And your feet are stationary against the board. And when you release, you have to be faced forward and you throw over your shoulder and your feet can rotate after, but you can't be actively moving your feet to throw behind you.
You have what's called a trig, which is like the wooden base at the end of the box. The box 7 feet, I think. But you put your feet up against the back of that trig with your back facing the field and you throw over your shoulder.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Isaac, was it just me or did you just learn a whole ton?
Yeah, I was gonna say I've watched I think 2 Highland Games competitions and they're really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And it's the only competition, I guess, that I've seen where the athletes are having a beer between events.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
that starts the first throw.
Yeah, so does that does the beer help you compete or makes the world spin as well?
Yeah, like for me, so the biggest thing for me is when I compete in strongman, everything is very, very tight and go hard, like rigid. And Highlands is very long, loose, relaxed. You don't squeeze down, you don't over rotate. It's so hard from strongman to Highlands because it's completely 180% of different of what you're supposed to do. So usually I'll drink 2 beers before I do weight over bar because it kind of relaxes me and gets me loose and not to over grip and over, just compensate. Whereas strongman, all I know is run and go and just black out and just go. And you can't do that at Highlands because you'll over grip and it'll go straight behind you. Like same thing with the sheath. Like you have to be just long and loose and just whoop. Or if you try to go too hard, the hay bale will just go straight off the fork that way.
So that does make sense then. So I guess there is intention behind sipping on a beer.
It is, but it's very hard to go from like, in strongman, you brace real hard, you grind out things. Like you don't do that in Highlands. It does not work. It's all bad.
That's fascinating. Yeah. I was going to say, I guess first, what's your favorite event? And
me?
Yeah. In Highland Games.
I like WOB probably the most, but then also I like hammer and caber.
Now, what is WOB?
The weight over the bar.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Duh.
Yeah. I really like caber mainly because there's not a lot of girls that can flip cabers at 12, and I like to just launch it. And then I like hammer because that's kind of the one event you can kind of like go like more power on, but it's like really controlled and like, but whatever. I mean, I like it, but there's things that I need to work on. Like a lot of those people wear the boots that like stab in the ground. I haven't gotten to that point yet, and that gets you more rotation because you can get more, you can bend back more and like get more hip, because basically your hips just go like in a circle, and it's just you're having to learn how to be like loose, and it's something you definitely have to work at and have someone that knows what they're doing look at you. But I mean, it's really relaxing for me and fun, and you don't feel like you got hit by 18-wheeler after. So that's really like elusive to me because like
you can do Highland Games every weekend, and not have a problem.
There's a lot more Highland Games, I would say, than strongman almost.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I can do Highlands and go to work the next day and like not struggle to go upstairs and things. Like whereas like after the Arnold, like I hobbled around for like 2 weeks.
By the way, I gotta say, all of you in all your descriptions missed the obvious joke that the beer is for carb loading.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I have a funny story to tell you about Thomas. So Thomas is not a really big believer in like warming up and mobility and stretching and things. Whereas like I have like this routine that I go through, and we're at the grandfather games and he wears his hat that says I drank today on it. And it's like at 8 a.m. and he's just like sitting in like a squat position with his, his elbows in between his knees. And he's like, I need a beer. And I was like, okay. And he's like, my hat can't be a lie. And then he's like drinking his beer. I was like, are you going to warm up? He's like, this is my warm up. And then he just went on the field.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm not competitive, but I'm the same way. Like I have little kids, so I can work out when I can. Like I run out to the garage, do a few dumbbell presses, run outside, put a stone over my head. So I'm notorious for not warming up. And I think I could do better if I did warm up, but what are you going to do?
Right. I've gotten older. I realize it's important.
He still doesn't do it.
But I still don't really do it, honestly. Not like I should.
Yeah, if I warmed up properly, I could out deadlift Isaac, but that's my whole issue.
Exactly.
It's the only reason I can deadlift so well.
I guess
He warms up like the Dickens, let me tell you.
Yeah.
That's how I am. Like I'll be warming up or whatever, and Thomas walks over like 2 exercises in. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm, doing whatever." You're just laying on the floor, and I'm like, "I'm getting there,"
Hey, that's a legit yoga pose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's funny because he's always made fun of me because it takes me
45 minutes to warm up.
It's not 45 minutes, but it's a minute.
It's in the DDP yoga book. It's called Dead Bug.
Right. Yeah.
That's good at it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say in the military we just called it a full body stretch where you just lay down on the ground and relax for a little while. So Tom's, what about you? What's your favorite event at the Highland Games?
I've gotten pretty good at weight over bar. I would say out of all of them, that's the one I've progressed the most on. And I also, like she does, I enjoy caber a lot. We live on a good bit of land, so like we were able to go out and cut some cedars down and make our own cabers. So I've had a lot of practice with those.
What's the standard length, and is there a standard diameter for a caber?
There's not really one, honestly. And that's the thing. You show up, you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes they're straight, sometimes they're not straight, and all that all has to do with how they turn, and you don't really know until you make your first throw, like how it's gonna go, But like the ones we have here at home, I've cut to 18 feet. That seems to be about the average length. But I know there was one at a contest we did last year. We didn't wind up using it because it was still too green. It was still too heavy for anybody to pick it. But I think it was 24 feet. It was a big one. Yeah.
Even 18 is huge.
Yeah, it really is. You don't realize it. I guess you do realize it. I don't realize it when I'm throwing it, but when I watch a video, it's like, man, that's long.
Yeah.
What do they weigh? What do they weigh usually?
The ones we have here at the house, our heaviest one's like 80 pounds. But I have a friend of mine that just cut one, and he weighed it the other day, and it was 110. So again, it's one of those things where it's just kind of fluctuates.
And then I throw his cabers.
Yeah.
So they're all heavier than the ones I throw at contest. Like my first show here, you're supposed to like have 2 people to carry the caber back to make it appear heavy. Well, I didn't know no better, so I just walked and picked the caber up and set it down, and I got like fussed at because that's something you don't do because you're supposed to give the illusion that they're heavy. And I was like, but it's not. Like, and they were like, all right, strong man, like just calm down. Whatever.
I mean, it's somewhat heavy, but the challenge is the balance, really.
It's the pick off the ground, it's the balance, and it's the timing of when you actually pull for it to fall. Because you're scored on the way it falls. If it falls directly in front of you, it's a 12. So it's like a clock. So it's not turning it. You've got to turn it straight from your feet.
Right.
So it's a lot of timing of like when you're running with it coming off your shoulder and you feel it leave your shoulder. That's when you stop, plant, jump, and then flip and go back. So, I mean, it's a timing thing. It's a balance thing. If the wind's blowing, that takes into effect. The way the ground is, you have to watch the divots. I mean, you got to watch what you're doing for sure.
And how did the caber toss originate? Because I was going to say that's got to be my favorite event to watch, but I've always wondered that. Like, who thought this up?
Probably a bunch of drunk dudes.
Isaac,
Hey,
you only like it, the strongest man in history did it.
Yeah. Well, at World's Strongest Man, they had a caber toss for height or distance.
They did. Remember that one year they had it where they're on the beach and they were throwing it for height. And then if you go back, I think it was the first year that Kazmaier did it. Like, was it 78 or 9? And I think 9. And they were doing it for distance, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it was 79 his first year.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing that for a long time. And then we also compete in Stones of Strength, which is like a blend of like Highlands and Strongman. I go out in California in 2020 and qualified for the Stones of Strength Pro Championships in Norway. And then he's competing in Norway. We're both going in July. And we're competing over there in the Stones of Strength Championship.
Yeah, and there's some carry events, load events. It's actually a stone throw, but it's like a 35-pound stone. It's huge.
It's all natural rocks.
Yeah, it's all
like
natural stones.
It's a natural stone press, a natural stone medley, a max distance natural stone, Atlas Stone Series, the stone put, and then some. They might throw in another event here or there, but it's basically a mixture of strongman and Highlands together. It's really cool.
What's the stone series called where it's like 24 stones in a row or something like that you put up on platforms?
Yeah.
What are those called?
The barrels. Is that the one you're talking about? It's the Ardblair stones.
Yes, Ardblair. Have you done those before?
No, I've never seen them, but that's our goal is to go to Scotland and do all the manhood stones. We want to go over there maybe next year. Yeah. That's kind of our goal. We want to spend more time traveling and do a lot of manhood stones, do the Ardblair stones. I would like to do the Denny's. I would like to train more next year to kind of do that. To me, that would bring me more, I think, satisfaction than winning like a contest, because like at the end of the day, like there's what, four girls or 5 girls that have picked up the Denny's, and you go in a book. Like people travel from all over the world to put their hands on these things. And like, that's something really unique and like, I guess like more memorable to me than like winning some contest that no one's going to remember in 3 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's more meaningful to me. And also that's way cooler. Cause like picking up a log, cleaning in chest and then pressing it. I mean, that's just a log. But like, if you get a natural stone that you have to pick, clean and press, or shoulder, you have to really look at that stone and figure it out. It's almost like
There's no standard.
There's no standard to it. And you have to look at the thing and like you have to be smart about it of which way it fits best in your hands, which way it's going to pick up and sit on your chest easier. And that's the thing, like a lot of competitors don't realize, like it's not just like a standard implement. Each one's going to be different, and it's going to be easier to clean and press or shoulder or lap it or whatever the challenge is differently. You know what I mean?
You're muted, John.
Sorry. Actually, speaking of the Art Blair stones, Donna Moore's done those. And
Yeah.
Thank you, Donna, for sharing this live stream in your story. We do appreciate the promotion.
Yeah, no.
You just competed with her, right?
Sorry, what was that?
I said you just competed with her at the Arnold's, right?
Yeah, me and Donna are really good friends. We've known each other. I met her back in 2018 Arnold. It was my first Arnold, and I met her there. And we just kind of started really probably getting closer within the last 2 or 3 years. She's done the Denny's. She's done the Art Blair stones. She's done a few of the Manhood stones. When we go over there, she wants to come down and kind of meet us and show us where they're at and kind of do them with us. But me and her are really good friends. Whenever I first started in strongman, that was my goal, was to compete against Donna. Like that was something I set out to do. It was kind of like something like I wanted to check off on my box list. And we're going to be competing against each other at Stones of Strength in Norway. So, I mean, we're really good friends, but we love to battle because we push each other. You know, we'll talk about training. We'll send videos to each other. I mean, we were very much talking the entire Arnold prep. We were sharing videos, asking for advice if we saw anything differently, or just pumped that we got whatever for the day or hit a new PR or whatever. Because she's changed jobs, so her work schedule is a little bit different than preps in the past. And then I work at a steel mill, so my prep was different than anyone I've had in the past, and just kind of, you know, just really rely on each other and just kind of pumping each other up when we needed it, you know?
Yeah, she's Donna's the best. Like she's like two different people. You watch her compete like in the record breakers with you with the Atlas stones, and you see like when it's time to go, she turns it on and she's just assertive and focused all the way through, and until the last whistle, then she's like nice Donna again. And when I interviewed her, she's like the nicest person in the world, like down to earth, regular person. Then you watch her compete and you're like, wow, it's like a different person.
Yeah, well,
like,
Donna,
consummate professional.
Well, that's the thing. Like Donna is a competitor. Like she's always going to show up and she's always going to be prepared. Like, you know, people don't realize that. Like she doesn't make mistakes. She's very consistent. She's very, very strong. Like she will be fine. No matter what she does, she will always be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you think of that record breaker Atlas stone? I was complaining to Isaac. I said they made it too heavy. What did you think?
I'm going to go ahead and say it's not too heavy. I'm going to say that we were all shot to hell after the 6 heavy events at the heaviest show in the world ever. Honestly, it's just
yeah, because nobody knows zeroed all day.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to do. First off, the fact that we already had stones the day prior, and then we had to come back and do stones again. The stone was sticking really bad to the platform, and I don't understand why, because it was a brand new stone that only, like, I went second, Olga went first, and there's no way she put that much tack for the stone to stick to the platform when it's a brand new stone. So I don't understand. I know that it had like a slim coating of tack that was like buffed on it, but I don't know. I mean, I'm going to tell you this. I was burnt out. I mean, I even told Thomas, I was like, I don't even think I should probably do the record breaker tomorrow, but I'm here. And if I don't do it, I'm going to regret not doing it. Because, I mean, we were beat up. I mean, that 800-pound yoke.
Yeah, she was struggling to get out of the bed there once we got back to the hotel. I mean, she lay down and watched TV for a little bit, and then she got up to go to the bathroom. She was just barely moving. And I was like, are you, like, really walking like that? Or are you putting on? Like, she's like, no, this is all I got.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's just, I've been having knee issues for like the last, I don't know, year. I don't have a lot of cartilage in my knee. I've played soccer my whole life, and just that compounding, like we didn't run a heavy yoke all prep.
Yeah.
Like the heaviest I got was like 725 or something, and only for one run. And it's just that pressure that's just compacting. It didn't feel good on my knee. And it was like I took my ice bath, and then I was stove up for the rest of the day. Once I got around backstage and started moving around and blood started going, I felt surprisingly better. but it's just, I think our CNSs were so shot from everything being so heavy and competing so hard the 2 days prior. It's just, we weren't set up in the best scenario, really. I'm actually going for a world record stone load in April, and I actually plan for it to be a lot better experience because we'll be fresh and I'll have just one event.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about that. Should records be kind of their own contest in and of themselves?
Well, I also think that the record breakers and Strongman Corporation and Arnold should have not done a replicate like event that's a record breaker that was already in the Arnold Pro. There should have been a little bit more communication from that, or if there was communication and they still went ahead with it. I mean, you had to realize me and Donna and Olga and Long are probably some of the most dominant stone loaders you have right now, and we were already in the Arnold Pro. So, I mean, you're already asking a lot of us there, and then you're going to turn around and ask more of us the next day type of thing. Also, I think that the Arnold needs to release events for record breakers further out than 6 weeks. I mean, I think there's a lot that needs to be restructured, but that's just going to be bringing everybody to the table and trying to make better decisions for the athletes.
I think that's also just a common theme in strongman, though, where like all the events will be planned, and then 8 weeks out they'll get changed, and then 3 weeks out they get changed, and then day of all of a sudden they're 50 pounds heavier or whatever. Like,
yeah, and that's just how I think strongman always has been, probably. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I remember it's changed on me multiple times, and you just have to be prepared for that, because a lot of people will fixate on that stuff and then it'll completely ruin their whole game. You just have to roll with the punches and go. You know, it's like, well, it's changed for everyone, not just me. And then you just have to adapt. I mean, every contest.
Nationals like that, we all.
Yeah, nationals, we had like, it's supposed to be like a 200-pound log, and like,
and
it was a 220. And for me at the time being like,
that
was my max. Was like, we were going to hope to God I was going to get 200 for one. And then they didn't tell us until I was walking on the floor. And they were like, oh, log for 220 for reps. And at that point in time, I had to either be like, oh no, and freak out, or be like, here we go, in full send, which luckily I got 2 reps. So, I mean, I sent it. But at that point in time, if I'd have been, fixated on that problem, I would have completely just blown that event, and that would have not been good. So you have to just take it and roll with it. And that's just, it's not a standardized sport, and I don't want it to be a standardized sport because I think that would bring more problems. So you just have to just deal with it. Honestly, you know what I wish would happen? I wish we had more mystery events or more mystery weight-loaded contests, and you just showed up and the best athlete won. I think that would be great.
I think
that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think the problem with that too, though, is your risk of injury goes up too, because if people haven't properly prepped for it.
Well, so is an 800-pound yoke that we didn't get to warm up for, but that's not a thing.
True, that is a valid point.
Or whenever like Mel and them went to Dubai and they didn't get to warm up at all for a 650 yoke for max distance, like legitimately walked off the floor and then turned right back around and went on the floor for a 650 yoke. So, I mean, it's just, believe me, I'm an advocate for not hurting us. But at the same time, if you just tell me, hey, we're going to have a heavy press, a heavy deadlift, a heavy max distance carry, a heavy load, and a heavy moving medley, I'd be pumped. It's like, I don't know what I'm touching, but I know it's going to be heavy. Let's go. It would put it this way. I think it would show a lot more athleticism and adaptability in the true competitors and athletes versus someone that has got to touch every implement and keep the exact same implement. I think it'd be a more exciting show.
I'm with you there. I like that that strongman has at least some level of inconsistency. Like, I went and grabbed a log out of the woods. I'm going to make a lifting log out of it. And, it has some knots on it. And I keep thinking in my head, if Steve Slater were making this, he'd say, my logs are perfectly balanced. I don't want mine to be perfectly balanced. I want mine to be how nature intended, right? And just put some handles, make it pretty, but make it imperfect, because that's what strongman is.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, that's what would used to be. It used to be just a bunch of like farm guys that went out there and picked up farm implements, and just who was the strongest farmer or football player or wrestler at the time being, and just basically who was more adaptive. And like, there was a guy that he's one of my buddies. He threw like a backyard unsanctioned contest, and they had a natural log clean and press, but it had no handles. Like, it was just a log that you had to clean and put it to your chest and just open palm press it. And it was sick. Like, honestly, for a backyard contest, it was a sick
I had
contest.
like 20 guys for that.
Yeah, it was open weight class. It was like 20 guys. You didn't have to pay. You got t-shirts. Like, it was really sick.
So now I'm disappointed because I thought I made that up. Isaac, I don't know if you remember my post there. I did it like halfway as a joke. So I got this log in the woods and I put it in one hand and I said, look, this guy is going to have the first ever world record for circus log press. Like I was making a joke, but apparently this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think, like, if you watch all the World's Strongest Mans, how they used to be, I mean, they had a lot of cool events, you know? And it's like, I kind of wish we had some of those events. Like, I wish we had more natural stone presses, things like that, that really showed, like, how much you can adapt and really...
like the odd implement medley that they did, like, 2 years ago. That was great. I wish they'd bring that back.
You know, because that's another thing. It's like, everybody really is like, oh, you know, static strength, like, who can press and who can deadlift, like, whatever. But it's like, what about all the other things?
Yeah.
You got to be able to carry, move, and load. And like, to me, how fast you can run around carrying and picking up odd objects that weigh anything from like 150 to 200 pounds and moving with those objects, that's more impressive to me. And I know you have the static lifters and you have the movers. I'm a mover, so I know I'm probably biased, but at the same time, that's a lot more exciting for a crowd. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Well, I think that's partly, I mean, that was one of the reasons, because I did a couple powerlifting shows when I first got started. And I was just like, they're boring. You go up, you do your one lift, and then you wait 30 minutes to an hour, and then you do your next lift, and then you wait another 30 minutes, you know,
all day.
Well, and that's,
and then well, and then I tried my first strongman comp, and it was one of those things where it's just like, it's one big happy family. Everybody's like, yeah, there's a lot of the moving stuff. There's also some static stuff. It was a good blend.
Yeah.
And then the more I started getting into it, I was like, wow, like no two shows are the same. Like there's so much variability you can have in it. And that was what I fell in love with, was just.
And I did the same thing. I played soccer, and then I blew out my hip twice and I had to give up soccer. But then I did powerlifting, and it was just like boring. Like, you did the same thing all the time. The lifts were always the same. You always did this stuff, and you went to the meets and you'd get hyped up and then you do a lift. And like, the judging was very inconsistent. The judge might make you like pause the bench for 3 seconds. Then the next person got a new judge and they had to pause for 1 second. And then it's just like, it wasn't rewarding enough. Like, I didn't feel like that adrenaline I got that when I competed in sports. So then I did the figure show, and that's the same thing. You were on stage, but it was dumb. And then I found strongman online, and then I like signed up for my first contest, and I won. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is the tits. Like, it is so much fun. Everything changes. Like, each event's different. So like, you don't get bored. It's like something new every time. And it's like, I don't know. I like it. It makes me happy, and I enjoy competing in it because every show is different. You know, you're not going to get bored.
I agree. So do you prefer, because it sounds like you prefer like natural stones over Atlas stones?
Ooh, I don't know. I love Atlas stones.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, for a press, like, I like to press a natural stone more than like a standardized implement, because I can figure out the best way to put it on me more so than I think other athletes could. Because like, I can look for that weird stuff. Like, I check out my implements before I do anything. Or like, if I go upon a rock, I'm not just like, oh, I'll pick this rock to my chest and then press it. Like, I'm going to look at it for a second and kind of figure out how I think it should be picked, and then really just figure it out. And it's just kind of like a game, you know? Because that's the thing. It's like, some people, I kind of like revert it back to like some people that are all about like vipering a log versus just doing a very fast clean then jerk. Some people can clean and jerk a log just as fast or faster than someone trying to viper. But everyone's like, oh, viper's so cool. It means you're so strong. Rah. And they get hung up on that because it looks cool. Like, I had a guy message me the other day, and he's like, I got to get better at my keg press. Can you see anything that's wrong? And he's in a press medley prepping for a contest, like I think for USS Nationals, but he's trying to like double underhand press it. I'm like, that's cool, but that's going to take a lot of time. And if you're in a medley, it's about how fast can you go? And he's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And I'm like, yeah, like, just, it's about quickness. Like, show off at home doing a double-handed, you know, under press keg. But if you're at a show, like, you need to be very, very quick. So I rather press something odd like that versus like a log. But I'm not like, I don't love pressing, so I'm also biased.
What about you, Thomas? Do you prefer Atlas or natural stones, or do you care either way?
I like pressing stuff. I mean, I'm good at it.
He has
like,
big triceps.
Like my first contest, we had an axle, and it was
It was a max axle.
Yeah, but what was the Bartos?
Oh, it was a Bartos. So it was super slick.
Yeah, and I mean it's at the beach, and
it's hot and
it was
sandy.
90-something degrees in August,
100% humidity.
We've got this super slick bar, but it was still, to me, I was like, man, this is great. Like to me, I think axle press is probably my favorite press. I enjoy log too, and then I mean we're fortunate again because of where we live. We can go out and get it, go down to the mouth of the river or down to the creeks and stuff and kind of dig around and pull stones out, and we put a scale in the back of my truck and drive around, and that's how we've got most of the stones that we've got in our yards. We pulled them out of the creeks and stuff. But
what state are you in?
Yeah.
What state are you guys in?
We're in Alabama.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to get some more for Faith 4.
Yeah.
Like we have a few, but we need some heavier ones. I need one for like a Husaful, because you can practice with a regular Husaful, but carrying a natural stone versus just your, standard steel made, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It
sits on you different.
Yeah. So we'll be scouting around for some more soon. The worst part is like having to get them out the creek and then put them in the back of the truck when you're not really like warmed up or ready. You're just like, all right, let's both pick it up.
Team lift.
Or it's really aggravating when you get it out and get it all the way up the hill to the truck and weigh it, and it's exact same weight as the one you just got, so you don't need it.
Yeah.
What's the heaviest stone that you have right now?
We have a 270. Yeah,
that's a good weight.
Yeah, it's
the shape of it's weird.
Yeah, I can get it to my chest. I haven't been able to press it yet. It's a little.
I can give you this one if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I saw you posted that this morning.
I got to get in my quick workouts before work.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It rolled down the hill. I loaded it and then it rolled down the hill, so I had to go get it.
The worst.
You didn't try pressing it, John?
No, it was so cold today, and I haven't tried it in a while. I couldn't get it. See, I got it a few inches off the ground, and that's it today. But we'll do better next time, because Travis Ortmeyer's on my case, so I got to get it up next time.
Right.
Yeah, it's just the one that we have. I'd originally picked it up for like a Husaful, but it's awful pokey.
Yeah. The rule of thumb is in order to press a stone, you're probably gonna have to be willing to set it on your face.
Face always.
Yeah, and I just haven't felt like setting this one on my face yet to try and get it up. But
or you can do it like John Paul Sigmarsson, where he set it on his head and then readjust his grip and then pressed it.
Take a breather, pop it.
Yeah. I mean, as long as your neck is solid enough, I guess you can try that.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's more of like a game.
Yeah.
So, because like it's fun, but it's just not as thrilling, I guess.
It takes that element out of it.
Yeah. So back to the record breakers. Another thing I noticed, Hannah, was, I mean, as you mentioned, understandably so, you would have been shot from doing a whole show already, but it didn't show. Like, when you walked out to do the weight over bar, for example, they were talking all about, your experience with Highlands, and a lot of us strongman fans found that intriguing. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like, we get to see somebody come from a different discipline, and you just look really composed, honestly.
Well, the sad thing is like we didn't even get a weight to warm up with. They gave us a sandbag. And it's not even like the same pull. It's not the same size. So, I mean, it's completely different. And then we were just backstage and there was no like standard to throw over. Like I asked if we could throw like 17 feet, 19 feet, then go for the record. And they were like, no.
Time thing.
So, I mean, it was a time thing. And it's like, I don't know. We were not set up in the best case for success in that, and this is not a stab at any particular organization at all. It's just given the circumstances and the time constraints of everything, like I completely understand why they have to do things that they do, but giving me a sandbag to replicate for a weight over bar is completely different. I mean, I had intentions, because that's another thing. Like when you throw a sandbag for height, like for contests that we had, it messed with my technique for weight over bar, because it's a different pull. You have to be more patient with it, like big time patient with it when it's coming behind you, and then waiting for it to come back underneath you and then rip straight up. Because a sandbag, most people kind of arc this way, whereas like a weight over bar legitimately needs to go straight up and then right over, then right down. So my pull and trajectory sacrificed form training for sandbag for the pro, but the thing was the pro was the most important thing. So I wasn't going to sacrifice trying to mess up my throw for the sandbag for the pro to try to overcompensate for weight over bar. That at the time being, I wasn't even sure they were still going to have it, because I was the only one that entered online. So it's just, we weren't best set up for it, but at the end of the day, you either have to show up or you don't. And it's just, I didn't have the gas in me to propel the extra probably foot or so that I needed. But I'm excited about, it coming up in Highlands season, because I'll be able to go back to my weight over bar and get back to that technique. And I have all hopes and aspirations to break that world record this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you are making the comment that you weren't as well prepared as you might have been for that weight over bar, because us watching as fans, our impression was her form's better than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I mean,
she has practiced a lot outside of Arnold prep. I mean, we built standards here at the house because we work at a steel mill. We get good opportunities to pick up scrap and that kind of thing, and so we were able to get some scrap tubing and build some 30-foot standards here by the house. So that way we've got a good opportunity to practice on a regular basis versus our old setup, which was a bunch of PVC on a yoke that
I broke all the time.
Hannah was constantly breaking when she was hitting it with the weight. So
you guys should start a side hustle making Fingal's fingers. You can get better prices than other steel fabricators.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a different pull. Last year, the 3 comps that I went was, well, the third one it was bad time. But 2 of the 3 comps this year that I had last year, I was going for the world record. It's just pushing the bar back or not having the trajectory just right. But
I mean, you've hit 20. She's hit 20 foot in contest.
I've hit 20. I've hit 20 successfully, but it's a lot of patience and timing on that. I mean, put it this way, all the girls that I compete with, so you can throw it 2 different ways, just standing straight forward and throwing it up and back, or some contests, they actually allow you to spin and rotate and throw up, but it's depending on the judge, because if you let go and you're spinning, it's going to go straight into the crowd. Yeah. So it's like,
that's why they don't allow it at the Arnold.
Yeah, they don't allow it at the Arnold because of that reason. And depending on your judge and the venue, they will either allow you to spin or will allow you not to spin. If they don't allow me to spin, the girls can't hit over like 17 that I'm competing with currently. If they can spin, they can reach about 18 and a half. But other than that, they just can't get it the way I get it. But it's just, my biggest thing is I usually always have the height. It's just the trajectory and the aiming of it just to go right over the bar. So it's just that fine tuning that I have to learn. It's so much more different than strongman.
Thomas, we got to get you over to the Arnold's next year to try to beat Thor's record.
Oh man. Yeah, we'll see about that. I got to get to that 17-foot mark before I
go
think
for 20.
About that. Yeah, right. Yeah, 17 feet is my 20 feet right now.
Yeah, you got a little bit of competition because Maxime told us he's going to train harder for it for next time around.
He was close, and you could tell he was kind of just winging it. So.
Yeah, I noticed that. So, like, no shade on him, but like the technique was not what an experienced Highland person would do. Watching you, Hannah, for example, like the couple of swings to the side, then to the center. Is that a standard kind of technique? Because they weren't doing that.
No, it's basically all preference. So like me,
I do one swing.
Yeah,
I get it my legs and kind of get my arm. I wiggle my arm a little bit and get loose, and then I just come out right about chin height, and that's my only swing. And then I come down, and then as soon as I get through my legs, I pull.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
because
all
the extra movement for me messes me up.
Yeah.
It throws my timing off.
Whereas I like to be on the side of myself and go 1, 2, then on 3 I come in front and then I go behind, because I time my big breath and my big brace on that 3, and then it goes behind me and I'm up on my tiptoes, and then I wait, and then you sink and then jump and pull. Everyone's got different like wind up techniques, I guess you could call it.
There's some very interesting ones when you go to games. You'll see guys that you wonder where they came up with that.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's a personal preference. You know, it's a lot of like, you know, Maxime had a very like up front in his face and then back down. Like there's no need for that really. I'm not criticizing Maxime at all, but it's just like a lot of more like swing, and you don't want to be jerky and stuff. And that's just extra like compensation for it to come. So it's just like when I come out, I just come out like a little bit and then just drop.
Yeah.
But
it's a matter of like learning how to get the weight. Like you're not so much throwing the weight; it's throwing itself. You know, you're just kind of guiding it. Basically, you're creating that explosiveness with your triple extension to get it moving. But it's like it's already on that path. You're just having to kind of push it through
and redirect it, really.
Yeah, if that makes sense. Like so.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Spencer. Like we went over to Spencer's house. We're pretty good buddies with him, and he's corrected a lot of my stuff. But my big thing is just patience. Like when it's behind me, patience to let it just drop back naturally and then get underneath me before you rip and pull. It's hard because you just want to rip. Because if you watch Sandbags, everyone just woof, 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 woof. And that's just, it works because it's for a quick thing, but for a max,
you're not throwing for height.
And you're not throwing for max height. You're just trying to throw for quickness, you know. And then also it's like, you know, Victoria, she's extremely explosive and she's extremely powerful. So like her technique didn't have to be as fine-tuned on the bags for height as mine did, because she's got so much more strength than I do. She could just hop back and just woof. Whereas me, I had to just really work on my technique that I knew to get the most height possible. Whereas Victoria, she's just so big and strong. She just like woof, you know. And sometimes power wins over technique sometimes. But it's just depending on who you're at, because like where I'm at with Highlands, my power does not always win. Like the distance stuff, I'll consistently place top 3, and that's how I can win a whole show. It's consistency. But there's girls, they can throw and it looks like it's not even going to go far because they're just like not really strong and throwing hard, but it just flies. It just is effortless to them.
Yeah, let's put an underline on that. Victoria's incredible.
Yeah, I mean she's extremely impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. She won 3 events, I think, right? Let me take a look at Strongman Archives. Yeah, 3 events.
Wheelbarrow.
Yeah, wheelbarrow, bag over bar, and yoke ladder.
Yeah. Yeah, she's an extremely talented athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about you a little more. We talked about the stone record breaker, but you won the stones in the regular contest. So walk me through that. How did you manage to beat everybody out there?
Well, a lot of luck on that last one. So the stone was actually getting stuck to the ground. So Leifa was like, "You're gonna have to take a gamble," because it wasn't. I've loaded a 362 at my house, so it wasn't the weight. It was the fact that it was actually getting stuck to the ground so bad that you were exerting so much energy to pick it out of the tack. So Leifa's like, "You're tall. We're about to take a gamble. Roll it all the way back out of the tack, pick it up, extend, and just fall." So that's why I just extended it up and I just fell. And that's when it got pinned on that yoke. And that's when I had to throw it over. So it wasn't the actual weight of the stone. It was just the fact that I had to load it from
6 inches back.
From like forever back. I mean, my feet, like where the posts are on the yoke, my like toe was right there where that post came up. So that's how far away I was from the actual crossbar. But it came up easy because it wasn't intact. Because some of the girls like could not pick it off the tack, or it was getting glued that much because it had so much tack between the floor and the stone, and you're wasting. Because that's the thing, like if I had to save that energy in case I had to go the next stone up, because my thing is like I exert more energy off the floor versus when I load. So we just took a gamble and it worked. Thank God.
Yeah, it was what, 352, I think.
Something like that. I don't know. The stones were all, they were marked a different weight than what they were. It was just a big mess. I don't know, but it was around 352 or 354. I don't remember exactly what it weighed, but it's a lot of those stones were mismarked. We actually had to weigh them backstage, so I don't. That one was closer to. I think the next one was only like 6 pounds different, so I was going to skip that one and go to the next if I had to go up.
Yeah, and did you mention Leifa coaches you?
Yeah, she's been my coach since after I did OSG in 2018 without her, and she took me into my second Arnold as a middleweight in 2019.
Awesome. Yeah, shout out to Leifa Engel. She's been on the show. She's absolutely awesome and a legend, absolute legend.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've learned so much from her, not just like in strongman, but just like a lot from her coaching style. Like I have some clients and stuff, and it's just, that's when I got, when I picked her up, I told her, I was like, I don't want to just like listen to you. Like I want to learn why we do things. Because I mean, I worked at a gym for 6 years before I moved over here and worked in a steel mill, but it's just, I've learned a lot about different things from her, and I see things a lot differently now than I had before her.
She's very strategic.
She's extremely strategic. She notices things that you would never think about. Like she's a very talented and gifted athlete, and she's got a brain full of knowledge.
Yeah, I think she seems like she's good at dealing with personalities as well, like how to get the best out of people.
Absolutely. She's very good at that. She's very, I mean, her communication skills are very direct. It's very clear. She knows how to, I mean, overall, she's one of the probably brightest individuals I know, not just in strength and conditioning, but just in general. She's extremely smart. She's a really good friend of mine. She's a mentor. I mean, we've been close for years. We were friends before she coached me. I've been out to California a few times. She's been here. I mean, me and her are really close.
Yeah, I saw her on the live stream, and I was wondering what the connection was, so it's good to know.
Yeah.
Cool. By the way, Isaac, we're having too much fun. We keep forgetting to tell people to like the stream and subscribe. And when you're all done here, head on over to Hunger Smash Fitness and like and subscribe to Isaac and watch all his stuff, watch all our stuff all the way through. The YouTube algorithm does love when you watch things all the way through. I personally try to keep my stuff short, so you can do that. But yeah, do all that good stuff for us. And then when we're done here, we'll let you know how you can follow and keep up with our esteemed guest today. So Isaac, jump on in. Don't let me hog up all the time here.
Yeah, I was going to ask too, because with the record breaker stone, did they reuse the mats from the previous day? Because I wonder if there was residual tack you left on the mat or something.
No, they were new. It's just, I don't know if maybe they like buffed on too much layered tack. I don't know. Put it this way, I've never seen a brand new stone that wouldn't come off the floor because of tack. Because that's the thing. Like there were many of us that actually broke it off the floor, but you could just see the tack that was just glued between the mat and the stone. And it's like, this shouldn't be like this.
Yeah, that's why they stopped, midway through and changed those mats out.
Yeah, it was weird. I had never seen this before, but it seemed like it was like a lint roller. They peeled a layer of mat off to reveal a new layer of mat below it.
Right. Yeah. But I'm bringing, I got some stones made from, is it Tampa Atlas stone?
I think so.
I think it's Tampa Atlas stone. Let me double check that. But I got some stone made from him, and I'll be using those stones for my stone record. So it will be a more controlled setting and what I know what I'm getting into for when I do my stone record in April at Clash.
Yeah, it's Tampa Atlas.
Yeah, it's Tampa Atlas stones. They have an Instagram page. You can
Tampa _Atlas stones.
Yeah, and I got some stone made from him, so I'll be in charge of a little bit more. The Clash guys with Furman and all them, they're asking me what I need in order to warm up, best be prepared to hit my record. So there will be a lot more opportunity for me to break the record, I think, in my corner at this show, just because I won't be fried from the 6 events forward before the 2 days. And then also like we'll make sure that I have the right warm-up stones, the right rate increments. Usually like before I do stones, I'll do barbell rows and stuff. I didn't have any of access to that. So I just had to start picking up like a 270 or 280 stone. So, I mean, it's just usually my routine of warming up and going into things. We didn't have access. I had some bands, but bands can't replicate warming up for a 280 stone, if that makes sense. So they're doing a really good job of asking me what all we need in order to be best prepared to give us the best case scenario to break the record. So between shout out to, Furman and Clash and the Strength Collective and them, and then also Tampa Atlas Stones, I'm really excited about what's going to happen coming up in April.
Yeah, we're excited to see it for sure. We've actually mentioned Tampa Atlas Stones on here quite a few times. I like all the stuff they do. They actually made, I don't know if you guys caught it, they made a 115-pound beach ball Atlas Stone. They put it by a pool. I could imagine somebody trying to kick that thing.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Only once.
Yeah. So I'm excited about his stones are really good. My 362 that I loaded was one of his. So it'll be just like that. So I'll know what I'm getting into.
Nice. Are they streaming Clash? Do you know? Like, can we watch you do that?
ESPN.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be ESPN Live on the 22nd. That's a Friday between, I think, 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be several of us going for records. Mel Peacock. I think she's going for an Axel record. Leah. Leah Birdsall, she's going for an Axel record. So her and her will be going head to head. I think Nadia's going for a log record. Aaron Blackford, I think he's going for a deadlift record.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty.
It's gonna be. I think there's deadlift records, Axel records, log records, and then I'm the only one doing stone.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned Melissa Peacock, it's going to be something overhead. Same with Nadia.
Yeah, I mean, Mel's going to crush it. Her and all the girls are going to crush it, but I'm especially looking forward. I mean, I'm really good friends with Mel. I'm really good friends with Leah, and they're going head to head, and they're like, "You better both be yelling for me." And I was like,
"Yeah,
but
they're
really good friends of mine. I've been friends with Mel since after my first Arnold in 2018, and then I've been friends with Leah at the OSG at the 2019. Yeah. Where I had to pull out. I thought I blew my hamstring off the bone.
Oh, geez. Wow.
The weirdest thing, I was like warming up. It was like my first debut as a heavyweight after the Arnold or whatever. No, it was before the Arnold.
It was after Nationals.
It was after Nationals. And I was warming up on like a 425 deadlift, and I felt like a big jolt right underneath my glute and like a big boom. And it like jolted me, and I dropped it. And I legitimately thought I ripped my hamstring because that's what you would think. And then I ran over to him, or I didn't run. I was just kind of like, oh God. And then we got Latha, and I told her what happened. She's like, yeah, you probably just ripped it off the bone. And then it never bruised. It never did anything. I never got it looked at because it never hurt after that. The only thing that happened is when I'd go to bench, if I arched my back, it just like was a pain in my low back. And then it went away after like 12 weeks. And then it never did anything.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest scenario I've ever encountered.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then Isaac, you remember Aaron Blackford? We first saw him at Mammoth.
He's super impressive. He just pulled an 800-pound single at 192 body weight.
That's crazy.
Like wow. He's super impressive.
That's crazy. That's like open weight pulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and his deadlift stance is so narrow, but I mean, he's got really good like leverages for deadlift. I mean, his arms are super long, super short torso. Like, I mean, he's
made for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very impressive athlete.
Yeah, that's awesome. What else you got, Isaac? Are we gonna wrap it up?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think we covered everything I wanted to cover.
What other topics do you guys want to cover that we didn't ask you about?
Man,
we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've come out and said this. Congratulations for hitting the podium. I mean, let's give you congrats on that.
Thanks. It was I took 2 years off competing to get my static strength up for the Arnold Pro. After I won the Arnold heavyweight and I got my pro card and everything, I took 2 years off, and it was definitely needed. That, and I gained probably about 20 pounds on purpose, which was a job in itself. Because that show was so heavy. I mean, I needed to put on the extra weight to get the extra strength. I mean, it was a long time coming. It was a lot of, honestly, it was a very, very hard prep.
Because it was so long.
It was so long because it kept going, oh, well, this year. Well, then it got canceled, and then it came back the next year. And then also, like, I changed jobs. I started working at the steel mill and doing swing shifts. I worked 4 on and 4 off, 12s, and then you're swinging shifts. So it's like you do 4 days, then you're off 4 days, and you work 4 nights, then you're off 4 days, and you work 4 days. And then also, I mean, you're like in 150, 60 degree weather and 3 layers of FR clothes doing manual labor. So it was a very long process in order for me and Latha to go back and forth to figure out a workout schedule that could coincide with my work schedule that wouldn't kill me and we could actually make progress. So it was a lot of trial and error, and a lot more error than anything. It took us over a year to figure out how much volume I could handle, how much like accumulation I could handle, what, like, how hard could I push on night shift workouts versus day shift workouts. I mean, it was also, I mean, she's never dealt with that before. So, I mean, I was like a little project, and we finally found a routine probably 6 months prior to them releasing events.
Yeah.
And then we got the events, and then we prepped, and it was, I mean, it was hard.
Tedious.
It was very tedious. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I can imagine, even diet wise, right? Because with a job like that, you're probably burning calories like crazy, and you need to compensate with macros, right?
Sure, there's, especially during the summers. Like when I work in the melt shop, which is obviously where everything gets melted down, and I started there in when I transferred to that department, I started in June, and by the middle of August, I dropped 15 pounds without changing anything. Yeah. Just from the heat, you know, because you sweat so much. I mean, and they keep us hydrated there. We've got all the water and Gatorade and all that stuff that we can drink. So, I mean, you know, you can stay on your fluids like you're supposed to, but still, it's like you're sweating so much, man. During the summer, you're going to lose.
You're constantly dehydrated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and also like,
and that affects your appetite too, because you're hot, you don't want to eat. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it was the area I was in before. I was eating 5 meals a day. And then I transferred to Caster, which we take all the liquid steel from them and cast it into a solid bar. And it's a lot of work. I'm out in the heat a lot. Like last year on a night shift, it got to 168.
Oof.
And you're like wearing 3 layers of FR clothes. Like we have to wear these snoods that are basically like FR material that cover your neck and head. And then your safety glasses, your gloves, your hard hat. And it's like I got down to where I was bringing 2 meals to work.
2 shakes.
And then like 2 shakes. And then the goal was to try to get all 4 of them down. But depending on like if we had to have you try to plan your meals, but in between your workload, or if you have to tail out or start up, it's just you're hot and you try to eat and you feel like you're going to puke, and then you're not hungry. And then you're drinking, like there was some days where you would drink over 2 gallons of fluids and you would still only go to the bathroom once, and then you would look completely dehydrated. Yeah. Wow. I mean, you would lose 10 pounds.
It definitely takes some extra planning, you know. And I mean, my job prior to that, I worked in an assembly plant, the Hyundai assembly plant down in Montgomery. And while it was swing shift work, but you had a structured schedule throughout the day. You know, your breaks were the same time, your lunch was the same time. So like you could get on a plan. Whereas here, if everything's running fine, then you can pretty much eat around the same times. But if you have some type of breakdown or something, you may spend 2 or 3 hours out there getting everything running again, and you're just going to have to wing it, you know, as you go along. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I haven't done a bodybuilding competition in the last 2 years, because it was just getting adjusted to this workload and schedule and
environment. Right?
Yeah, well, and then we just built a house last year too, so that took a lot of time, and you know, I didn't hire a general contractor, so I was having to do all that stuff myself too. So,
well, congrats.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. But I mean, it's just I choose to do it. Yeah. Luckily, Arnold I was able to prep during like winter months, so I wasn't like sweating my face off at work. But it's definitely a whole different environment of trying. And I mean, there were some days during summer we would have a breakdown, and I only ate once, and I was like swinging a sledgehammer. And I just texted Leif. I was like, I cannot work out today. Work was bad. We broke down. I was swinging a sledgehammer as soon as I went to work. And she's like, all right, just go to bed. We'll push the workout to tomorrow, and I'll change the volume. I mean, it was a lot of communication and adjusting on her end and my end. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like my job pays my bills, strong hobby, so I have to go to work, unfortunately. But It was fine. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge this year. We have everything set up as far as like how to work everything out, but I'm doing Clash in Baltimore in August. So I technically will be prepping during summer.
That's a 92 class.
And that's a 92 class, so I'll be cutting weight, which is fine because after I do the stone load, I'm going to cut weight anyway because I don't need to be this heavy. Technically, I won't even have to cut weight to lose right now because I just need to stop eating all this chocolate milk and muffins and fruit snacks. But, you know, that'll be really an interesting prep too because I'll be during summer trying to prep with work. So it's hard because during summer, like your 4 days off, you feel like you're finally trying to recuperate and get rehydrated just to go right back into it.
Yeah. And you qualified for the Arnolds by winning the amateurs in 2020, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that's how I got my spot there. But from here on out, I'd have to go to strongest woman in the world and place top 3 in heavyweight to get an invite. And I think they're going to the UK this year in August. And I already have a show in August. And I'm not going to go to the UK for the strongest woman in the world this year. I have too much on my plate. I might try to do that next year or the next. I'm not really sure. It's just going to depend on where they're going to have it, at what kind of money they're offering, etc. Because I'm not going to go to the UK for a show if I'm not sure there's money that I could win to pay back my trip.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, especially if strongest woman in the world is not going to have a rubber salmon toss like when Jessica Fithen won it, then it's not worth it.
Correct. So, yeah, I would say so. I will not be going to the next pro because I'm not going to the the strongest woman in the world. So I won't even have a chance to qualify. So I will not be at the next year Arnold unless it's possibly a record breaker. And then who knows what's going to happen next year. We'll just have to take that and kind of see where it's going to be. And there's a lot of changes going on in Strongman Corporation right now. So I'm really not sure if there's going to be other opportunities to qualify for the Arnold Pro. I will not be going to America's Strongest Woman this year. I have too many other obligations. So I won't be going to America's Strongest Woman. I will not be going to Strongest Woman in the World. I got some other things planned. I have Norway planned. I have this record breaker. I have Baltimore. So, I mean, it's just, there's only so much I can do, especially with my workload and the way we work. We work a lot of weekends, and I don't have a lot of vacation time. Yeah. So I just have to miss out on a lot of contests, unfortunately. But that's just that's adulting.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how it is sometimes. How do we watch you guys compete in Highland games? I'm really interested to see this.
We post videos. That's about it. There's no live streams.
I did a really piss poor job of recording anything that I did last year.
He did.
Instead of having a phone in my hand, I probably had a beer in my hand. But that's the plan this year. We've tried to get it set up. We can record a lot more of our stuff. We have one in May 7th
in June,
and then we have another one in June 24th or 5th. So I mean, we'll be
training here soon, so you'll see more stuff on our Instagram. I need to get better about posting stuff. I get really bad habits of coming in from night shift or coming in after work and then just going through my workout so I can hurry up and go to bed. Because we live 40 minutes away from work, so really when we're working at 12, you're really working like a 14 by the time you drive and everything else, and then you have to hurry up and get through your workout so you can somewhat get sleep. Because by the time we drive, come home, I train, hurry up, shower, eat, get ready for tomorrow, you're getting like 6 hours of sleep at best.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't have time to like set my camera up, do all the stuff. Like I don't have time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, our friends over at Garage Gym Life Media have streamed Highland games before, so I'm just going to tell them to keep their eyes out for you guys.
Yeah, sure. I didn't know that they had any. The ones, put it this way, the ones we've been to have not been live streamed. Right. They are super just like backyard beer bash, like barbecue. You know, it's really cool. It really is. It's a really cool environment.
It's a very
different environment.
It's a very welcoming community too. I mean, all those folks are just really nice. They're all. It's weird, like when even like bodybuilding, for example, you're backstage and everybody's got their headphones on and everybody's sitting in their corner, you know, and everybody's hiding. And I mean, maybe at the night show, you'll have a little bit more conversation, but especially during prejudge, everybody's just kind of in their zone. There's not a whole lot of socializing going on. And I mean, nobody feels like socializing. You're all miserable. And like, you know, then even with strongman, it's like, it's a very inclusive community, but like during the contest, I mean, you have some folks that socialize, but a lot of folks are just focused on the event, you know, and they're not going to give you any cues or help because they're trying to beat you. Whereas with Highlands, you'll have the veteran guys
teach us.
teaching you while the games are going on.
Yeah.
You know, which is really cool. Like, you know, especially when you're warming up between events, they'll be giving you cues and tips and that kind of stuff. And it's pretty neat. It's one of the things I really enjoy about it.
Yeah, it was really hard for me because like when I compete, I'm very, very intense. I'm very, very focused. I don't talk a lot. And the game last year, my first one, I went out there and I had my headphones in, and Adrienne Wilson walked up to me and she goes, "We don't do that here. Take those out." And I was just like, "Oh." And then she's like, "You know, my name's Adrienne. This is Emily. Like, come here." And like, you know, you clap and you yell and you cheer, and that's so not me. Like, I'm like, ooh, like, you know, it's like just completely it's 180 complete difference of like what I am in strongman. So it's that's the hardest part for me in Highlands is like goofing off in the field and then going up to throw and having to like cut it on. That's very like exhausting for me because it's easier for me to stay in that state and ride it and then drop versus I'm goofing off, getting serious, goofing off, getting serious, goofing off, getting serious. Me, that's like it's a huge adrenaline dump, and I'm just like exhausted from that. And it's just like, man, like this is exhausting, you know. And it's hard for me because like, you know, Highlands is not very intense. Like there's not a lot of like, I don't know. I was told that I needed to like tone it down a little bit, and I'm like, you seem like a 3. Like this is not how I am at strongman. I'm like a 10. You have no idea.
Yeah, it's funny because at the record breakers, you were doing a lot of talking to the judges, but not in a goofy way. It was like in a very like, here's how I want this to go. What's that over there? It was very like.
Well, and I told him, I was like, why is our clock behind us?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that's a good question. I'm like, well, I need it moved. Well, then they're like, well, we're not going to move it. I'm like, well, then how the hell am I supposed to know how much time I have left? Well, like, that's a good, I mean, you're raised a good point. Well, then I'll just tell you. And I'm like, you know,
yeah,
so,
because for people that don't know, you had to retrieve your own implement after throwing it, right? To get the second throw. Right.
So, I mean, it's just, you know, I'm a very direct, serious, like stern, intense competitor, I guess you could say. So, I mean, when we were there, I mean, I was very much direct in asking questions like, no, Jan Todd said this, you know, it's just, and then, you know, in Highlands, it's very just like, they do like cartwheels and stuff. And I'm like, I don't do this. Like, it's just, I'm trying to like be more, I don't know how to word it really, but I'm trying.
They like you to play to the crowd. That's one thing you like when you're doing Highlands, you want to play to the crowd. Like when we did the Grandfather Mountain Games in North Carolina, there were like 3,000 people there watching.
It was really cool.
It was a huge festival. It's the largest gathering of Scottish clans in the country every year. And so there's people everywhere. So like when you're, it's almost like you're putting on a performance for them. So like they like for you to like be real social with everybody and play to the crowd and stuff.
Yeah. So I had to like, you know, wave and things, and, you know, like I just don't do that. Like when I compete, I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. Like the world's black, you know, whatever. But when you're doing Highlands, they want you to like wave and jump and cheer, or at least the girls do. They're more rah-rah than I am, I guess. So I'm like trying to like loosen up more, but it's just, it's very hard for me because when I compete, I'm very serious. I want to win. I don't like messing up. And they're just like, oh, ha, like I missed through that. And I'm like, that's not how I play this game. You know, so it's just, it's a little bit different for me, and I'm getting better at it. It's just, it's very hard.
Yeah, I can understand that. Well, hey, listen, if Iron Bibby can cartwheel, anybody can cartwheel.
Yeah. True.
Oh, he's a big boy and he's very athletic.
Yeah, he's done some pretty stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've kept you a while now. We should probably wrap it up. I've learned a ton in this session. We definitely have to have you both on again sometime in the future after you've maybe some of your shows coming up in the future. But
yeah,
why don't we tell people how they can follow you? Any sponsors you'd like to shout out? You've talked about your coaches a bit, but basically anything you'd like to shout out, this is your open forum.
Okay, I would like to thank all my sponsors. I have Death Before Dishonor Squat Company, Jared and Hannah. They're really good to me. They take care of me at every contest. They also have really sick shirts and really sick drops. They're going to come out. Also Cerberus, Ken from Cerberus. He's got, all the stuff that you need. he's a really good guy. Customer service is out of this world. I really appreciate everything he does for me and the athletes. My discount code is Swampy. That saves at both of those. Really, my coach, Leifa, shout out to her at Unicorn Strength Systems or training. She's 1,000 to none. She's a really good coach. If you really want to get better, that's really who you need to go for. You can follow me, Swampy_Swamps on Instagram. I'm not very social on Facebook, but I am there just as Hannah Lindsay. Really, that's all I have to shout out to.
Yeah. I don't have any sponsors, so I sponsor myself, I guess. My Instagram tag is the TMFDBYA.
You might have to write that down in the underscore comments.
Yeah, you might want to put that down.
Like your W, like the president.
Yeah, like W, yeah, exactly. And then of course, I'm not very active on Facebook either, but I'm on there as Thomas Wade. But the majority of my posting and stuff is going to be done on Instagram.
Yeah.
Got to get you some sponsors. Hey, Kratos, Andrew.
Yeah.
Maybe you want some bodybuilders on your roster.
Yeah, I need to get on it this year. Maybe I can put up some decent numbers and start getting some attention. We'll see. I told Hannah I've got 1 more year until I'll be ready for Masters and Strongman. So
he's excited about that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us. Like I said, I had a blast. We learned a ton. Definitely got to do it again in the future. And we'll leave it at that. Have a great evening, both of you.
All right.
Thank
We
you.
really enjoyed it.
All righty. Take care. And to all of you out there, ciao, homie.
Bye.
Okay.